Hi there, I'm Elizabeth with Ellie's Handcrafted Jewelry, and welcome to my channel where I share tips, tricks, and tutorials for those looking to learn the art of wire wrapping and wire weaving. Now in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create the pumpkin pendant. Now the difference between this one and most pumpkin pendants that you'll see out there is that this one actually uses a more square shape or rectangular shaped stone. That way you can make good use of some of those stones that are very pumpkin-y but not quite the right shape. And also, just a note, you can also use square wire rather than round wire for this video. I am going to be using round wire specifically, but you can absolutely use square wire in its stead. You can also use half round wire to start combining wires and everything as well. But in this video, I'm going to just show you how to use round wire and how to weave everything together. And if you stick to the end of this video, I'm going to also show you how to weave some leaves that you can also attach to your pendant. You can use it to attach to anything or even create earrings out of them. So just be sure to stick to the end of the video and I'll show you how to do that as well. But before we jump in, let's go ahead and give a quick thank you to Pendants for sponsoring this video. It's hard to find quality stones out there or to know what you're getting from overseas sellers, but you don't have to worry about that with Pendants. They are based in the US and have high quality, gorgeous looking stones that will make your pieces pop and wow anyone who lays their eyes on it. From natural gemstones to glittery cubic zirconia in all shapes and sizes to fit your style and budget. Not to mention their amazing customer service. If you have any questions, they are quick to answer them and help you find the right piece for your project. So be sure to stop by their website and check out their amazing assortment of stones. Okay, so for tools and materials, what you're going to need is some 20 gauge wire. Like I said, you can use round wire or square wire. In this case, I'm using round wire. For weaving, I'm using 28 gauge wire, but you can use anything between 26 and 30. As for the stone, I'm just going to kind of give you a sampling of what I mean by rectangular square. These are kind of more rounded, as you can see. But you can use rectangle just fine. You just probably don't want like a really long rectangle. In this case, I'm going to choose this one because I really like the glittery gold stone. Set that to the side. And kind of just give you a sense of where we're going. So you can see I've created a frame for it, but then there's a pumpkin in the center with a bunch of tendrils. And I will show you how to weave a leaf to attach to your stone as well. Now, as for tools, what you're going to need are chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, and flush cutters. Of course, you're also going to need a ruler and a permanent marker or Sharpie. Not needed, but recommend, is having these finger protectors. I use them all the time for wire weaving to protect my middle finger in particular because I tend to blister really easy. And also I have one of these little mandrels here off to the side to make the tendrils with. I was able to do it without having to use it, but they are very handy. I'll leave some links in the description below where you can find all of these tools. But let's go ahead and jump in. Now where we're going to start first is actually measuring the distance around the stone. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can actually use scrap paper and wrap it around and mark it. I'm going to use tape, this washi tape, because it actually holds to the stone. So it'll give me a better and more accurate measurement. So I'm just going to take off a little bit. Place it kind of here at the center and then just go around the perimeter of the stone. About where the center is going to meet, if I can get it over there. Because I kind of want to mark it at the center best I can on this because it'll help me figure out where the center down here will be. So now I'm going to grab my permanent marker and I'm going to mark the top here and here where they meet, and then here at the bottom. So I'm probably going to want to weave from there to there. So this will be where I weave for the bottom to weave all the wires together. So now when I pull off my tape, I have an idea of what needs to be woven and coiled. As you can see with this here, I'm going to be coiling the outside perimeter of the stone or the frame of it. So now I'm going to grab my ruler This is going to help me figure out how much wire I need. So now I'm going to lay it here, and it's a little over 3 inches. So I'm going to add 4 to 5 inches. If you're not sure, you can definitely add 5 inches just to make sure you have extra, which I may just go ahead and do. So 5 plus 3 would be 8 inches total. So I'm going to cut out 4 inches or 4 segments of 8-inch wire. I'll lay it here like this, like that, and trim. And then sometimes what I like to do is just measure against the wire, but that's okay. And I did get a question recently about how I straighten my wire. This is literally all I do. I just kind of go back and forth in my fingers a couple times, and that usually helps to straighten it. It takes some practice, but eventually you'll start pulling some pretty straight wires off of your spool. So measuring and cutting. Now we're just going to do this a couple more times until we have 4 segments of wire. Here's my 4 segments of wire. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to mark the center of this wire and then measure it up against my tape here. So make sure these are all straight and together. I'll lay it on my ruler here. And then mark it at 4 inches, which is where the center of this is. And now what I'm going to do is grab them and place them here at the center, like so. So where my center mark is from my stone. And then I'm going to mark here and mark here. And then I'm going to go over here and mark here and here. Just so I know how far I need to coil, and they all are lined up like they're supposed to. And now we're going to move on to the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way so it's not distracting me. And I'm going to work with the 2 center wires first, because we're going to do a very similar weave to what I did in my previous ring tutorial. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to add together. You can also use a clamp if you'd like. Like for example, I have this ring clamp. You can also just stick them in there and use that, but sometimes you don't have one on hand and sometimes they're bulky, so I'm just going to show you how to do this. And actually we're going to start here because this is where we need to weave everything together. So I'm going to wrap 3 times. Start. I'm going to stick my finger protector on. And then I'm going to wrap around both wires and bring that wire in between. And we're basically doing a modified sumac weave. So you see I've wrapped 3 times and then around both wires, brought it in between those wires, and bringing it up and over. And then down and around the bottom wire 1 time. Doesn't scoot so much. Like so. And then up and around both wires 1 time. In between the 2 wires. Up over the top wire. Then down and around that bottom wire 1 time. So this is 2 rotations. We're going to do 3 of them. So last rotation, so around both wires, in between the 2 wires, up and over, then down and around the bottom wire. And if you need to, you can always grab your pliers and scooch them over. Make sure it's scooted onto the mark. Now at this point we're going to start adding wires. So the next wire we're going to add to the bottom because that's the direction we're going. making sure my lines line up. So then down, so it's going underneath, and we're going underneath the 2 wires, like so. And now we're going to grab the other wire, final wire, stick it up here where it all lines up. And from the back, you can see we've gone in between those wires. Now we're going to go up from underneath and over top the top 2 wires one time. Now we're doing another, basically a figure 8. And we're going underneath and over top, in between those 2 wires, and then from underneath going over top the top 2 wires. Just like that. And now we're going to be continuing to weave in this direction because that's kind of where the wires want to go. Before I do that, I'm going to do a little pull and twist and take off this excess wire so it's not in my way. I'm going to adjust my base wires a little bit so it's easier to weave in between them. So you can see here I'm just kind of bending them out a little bit. And from here, I'm bringing it in between these 2 top base wires and then down and around the center 2. So we're starting that modified sumac weave again. So now we're going to bring it in between the 2 wires and down around that second wire, then underneath in between the top 2 wires, and then down and around through the middle. So there's one rotation again of the modified sumac weave. Do it again, like that. Around both wires in the center, around the bottom base wire, then around the second to last wire, or second to top wire. There's 2 rotations. So we're going to do it one more time, and then we're going to do that again. So around both wires, and around that bottom wire of the ones we're weaving together, and up and around that wire. There, now we have this beautiful weave. All right, from there, the direction we're going to keep going this direction. So I'm going to go up. Well, fix my base wires first. Go up over the top 2 wires, in between them one time, doing that figure 8 weave, going back over top, over those bottom 2, doing that figure 8 weave again, and going over the top, and then down and around the bottom 2. And now we're going that same direction and wrapping around the center 2 wires. This time we're going around the top wire, then down and around the bottom wire, that sumac weave, and there's one rotation. Now we're just going to continue this pattern until we reach the further Sharpie mark here. So past the middle and towards that one. And I'll meet you here when we're done with the modified sumac weave. All right, you can see from here I've reached the Sharpie marks, and it took about 4 of these little guys in order to do it. If you are using a thicker gauge wire, it may take less, so like 26 gauge wire, or if you're using 30 gauge wire, it may take you more. So it just kind of depends on the type of wire you're using. But what I want to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and coil over to this side. Now these top 2 wires are going to be used to go in front of the stone. So like these 2 wires, while this 3rd wire is the one that's going to be coiled. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now since I have my wire still attached. And we're just going to coil until this Sharpie mark here, where we measured for the stone. can do it that way. You can also move wires out of the way and just wrap around, whichever is easiest for you or fastest. And if you're using square wire, the nice thing about it is that it doesn't move very much when it's wrapped together. So round wire is a little more squirmy. And with a square wire, instead of coiling it, you can also just twist it if you want kind of like a glittery effect. So there's my coiled wire. And just coil a couple more times. I'm going to grab my flush cutters here, trim that off, and then just wrap it around a little bit more with my chain nose pliers so that nothing sticks out. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So kind of bring those back together and then turn it around. And we're going to do the same thing on this wire. Same wire. And so I'm just going to wrap this around. Give myself a little bit extra room here. And you can actually start further up and then just scoot the wire down. Scrunching that together. And pushing the wire down. I'm leaving that tail there so I can fix it when it's done. So don't cut off the tail just yet. Save it for the end. All right, so now we've reached this spot. I'm going to do the same thing, trim that off, tuck it in, scooch it down a little. And then here, I'm going to do my best to kind of integrate this into the rest of the frame so it doesn't look like there's a huge gap there or anything. About there, and trim it off. And then tuck it in. So there's my frame. And I realized, so don't cut that off, don't cut that off. I'm going to leave a note in there. But if you did and you're like me and you cut this off, it is not the end of the world, I promise. So what I'm going to do at this point, since I did cut it off, is we're just going to set the stone anyway. So I'm going to grab my stone and kind of use it as a guide. And I'm going to pull these front wires up like a pumpkin. I'm going to make our pumpkin shape now. So I'm holding firmly to the bottom of the frame and gently bringing these up. And using this as a guide to figure out how big I want those. There's my center. Just going to even these out and round them out a little bit more. Just using my fingernails. Oops. And just make sure you know how you're orienting your stone when you do this. Now I'm going to grab my pliers and bend them up where they meet. something like that. Going to do the same thing with the next wires next to them. And I want these wires to sit next to the others. It's kind of like that. Gosh, I love that glitter. It's so pretty. All right, so now that we've gotten that, now it's working on this frame piece. So you're going to want to make sure you're holding your stone pretty darn securely. And we're going to do our best to, I guess, trace the outer side of the stone. Make sure our stone's sitting at the center where it's supposed to. And bend it up where it's going to meet. Do the same thing on the opposite side. So tracing that outer part of the stone. And it should fit fairly snug because this is going to hold the stone in. So it should be just around that stone. And if you have a really thin stone, there's a little trick I'll show you, but it can be kind of tricky to get those in there. So just take your time, take a deep breath, set your project down and come back to it if you have to. Sometimes you just need to do that. All right, so once I've kind of gotten that where I want it, I can adjust this here in a minute, but I'm going to flip it over. And now I'm going to create the back. So I'm going to follow just inside the stone, just so it's making contact with the back, but it's not too close to the outside. And then I'm going to bend this straight up. And then do the same thing on the opposite side. So now it's not going to fall out when everything is woven together. And here's where you can kind of play with it and just adjust a little bit. But it doesn't look too bad. So when everything is together, it looks like a little bit of a pumpkin. Now what I'm going to do is, now that I have this here, I'm going to grab my weaving wire and I'm going to pick this front wire. Well, actually, you can pick any wire, honestly, to wrap this around. So we're going to wrap it around a couple times just to get it started. Since I was silly and I decided to cut it off too soon. Alright, so I've wrapped it around 3 times-ish. I'm going to bring all these wires together. Make sure that they're sitting together fairly nicely. And I'm going to take this weaving wire and wrap it around the whole bunch of them, probably at least 3 times. And scoop that down. Now I'm going to start separating wires a little bit. So I want these 2 front wires, if I can find them. These are what I'm going to use to create my bail. And the rest of these I'm going to set off to the side. So I'm going to have 3 off to one side and 3 off to the other, divided right down the middle. And now we're going to do a modified sumac weave again to create the bail, and we're going to weave at least 3/4 to a full inch. So start here, bring in the middle, and up and over, down and around that last wire. Scoot that down. You can use your pliers if you need to. Then wrap around both wires. Bring in between those 2 wires, and down and around the bottom bottom wire. Like I said, bring your pliers in if you need to. You can also pull off this tail piece now if it's getting in your way. And we're just going to continue this weave, so around the top, around the bottom, and just do that for about 1 inch. Alright, so once we've woven our bail, we're just going to bring it over and turn it into one. Making sure it's straight. Move these wires a little bit out of the way, and I'm going to take this weaving wire and I'm going to wrap it around the entire base here about 3 times, and bring it to the back and wrap it around one of these wires 3 times just to secure the weave. And I do a little pull and twist. And now I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to bring them towards the top or towards the front. Crisscross them. So one's going to go over the top and one's going to go over the bottom. I'm going to trim them off here at the side, and then on this side, like so, and tuck them in like so. Adjust my frame a little bit, make sure my stone doesn't pop out. So far, so good, I think. And at this point, you can adjust and play with your pumpkin a little bit. Round out any wire that you feel isn't round enough. Develop your pumpkin shape. And now I'm going to start creating the accents here on top. So I'm going to do that with one of these over here. As you can see, I'm just bringing it around the front like this. I'm going to grab one of these, bring it underneath, and maybe another one of these. Just bringing them together, and maybe this one, create even like a little curl in there, just for the added tendrils. And then I'm just gonna wrap these around the bail. to the other side, trim it off and tuck it in. Be careful of which wires you're cutting. Also, make sure you're aiming away from yourself when you're cutting wire so it doesn't come back at you. And just doing the same thing with the others. Move this one out of the way for a second. There's that. And now I have these 3 wires left, and from here I'm just going to make tendrils. So this one I might actually go this way and go over there, or crisscross. Or maybe I'll just stay on this side and just create them this way. So I'm going to go this way, I think. So the way I do it, now you can do it a couple different ways. If you have one of these little mandrels, or you have something thin like this, you can actually use it to curl your wire. You know, kind of help curl it. But I'm pretty good at just wrapping it around like so. I'm going to do it again. Just using my fingers. And you can use your pliers if you need to kind of help tighten your loops. And I'm going to curl this in. And I'm going to create a little a curl at the end here. So I'm going to trim this off just a little bit. Grab my round nose pliers. And then roll this in. You can see I'm adding leverage from the back with my finger. If it's not looking quite as pretty as you'd like, maybe it's a little straight on the end, there's a little trick. You just cut it off. Like that. So there's one little tendril. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Just creating my little curls. Add a little another curl. I'm just fixing my little curls here with my pliers, and then I'm going to curl this in just like before. And so I'm going to create a little loop. Oops, I'm going to do that with my round nose pliers, though those tend to work a little better. And curl that inward. I'm just going to trim that off a little bit. this one kind of gets kind of fun because what I like to do if I have an extra, bring it down and around. But I actually might go underneath, sorry. So I'm taking this and I'm going underneath and curling over the top. And curling again. And I'm going to curve the other way. About like that. Turn this off. Grabbing my round nose pliers. Oh, those are my round nose. These are my round nose. And curling this in as well. So it adds a little bit more complexity and depth to it. Now here is where we get to the fun part, I guess. It's not necessarily my favorite part, but it's just tacking everything down, so to speak. I'm just going to grab some scrap wire here. Well, not scrap wire. I'm going to make some scrap wire. If you have scrap wire, use it if you have long enough pieces. But in this case, I'm just going to do it here. And what I'm going to do is, oops, I'm going to go around this frame piece. So I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit here. Wrap it around about 3 times. Because we just don't want the swirls to catch on anything. So going through, wrapping around at least once, like so. And then finishing off the wrap by wrapping it around the frame 3 times as well. And if you have a thinner stone, I would recommend using a longer piece of wire, and you can kind of do a figure 8 through here. I did that on the back of this one, as you can see. Just kind of make it extra secure and you don't have to worry about it popping out, but this one is actually staying really well. And if you have the tendrils attached and bring this back a little bit, this is going to hold the stone beautifully. But it's just those thinner stones in particular that sometimes can be tricky. And you can just do a little pull and twist. Pull that off. And if you have a tiny little piece like this, you can do a pull and twist, or you can just bring this to the front, trim, and tuck in. Now, if you don't have a nice set of chain nose pliers, I highly recommend getting them. I actually recommend a certain beginner set. So it's down in the description if you want to look at it. But they work really, really well if you're just looking for something that's more budget. Otherwise, these are Swanstrom. I love them very much. So if you want to do this more professionally, you want to have professional pliers, I would recommend getting them. I think Weber's is another brand that I've heard as well that is good. If you have any of those, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear what the difference is. So. All right, so now we're just going to tack this one down. So wrapping around minimum 3 times. Let's scoot this up a little bit. There we go. So going around both these swirls here, we can get it in there. pull and twist. Okay. And I'm going to secure this one really quick as well, and then we're going to move on to creating a leaf for this pendant. So here's the pendant so far, and now I'm going to add a leaf to it. Now, if you have extra like scrap wire that you want to use, you can use that. I'm going to need probably about a 3-inch segment, maybe 4-inch segment. Just going to trim off some. And we're just going to do a little leaf. I'm going to start actually by curling a little bit. Trimming off that straight piece. And I'm just going to make a little leaf. I don't want one that's huge, so I'm going to cut it about, or not cut it, bend it in half about there. Don't cut it. So about 1/2 inch, we'll say. Like that. And bend it out like that. And if you have one of these little mandrels, they are really helpful. If not, you can use a little pen or something like it. I'm just going to bend this in. And I'm going to pull this apart a little bit more though. There we go. And just the leaf as needed. So there's our little leaf, and now we're going to do a little figure 8 weave. And if I can find my wire, there it is. Move this out of the way. Don't mind my wire mess here. Oops. Now to get started, I'm going to stick my wire in here, and I'm going to wrap it around the bottom portion of the leaf 3 times. You can always scoop the wire down too if you need to. So 3 times to start the weave. Oh, yeah. It's been a little while since I've done one of these. Okay, so I'm scooting this down. Now we're going to start doing a figure 8 weave. If you need to, you can use pliers to hold this while you work, but I'm going to try and do it with my fingers. So we're doing up and over the top 1 time, and 2 times, then around, down and around the bottom wire 2 times. So once, twice. This is going to be the easy part. The ascending part is always the easiest, I think. And wrapping around the top. 2 times. Figure 8 weave going down and around this bottom portion. And the more you weave, the more you'll have more to hold on to, so just bear with me. You can also use maybe a clamp to hold that if you need to. Let's see, I kind of curious. So here's my flat nose pliers. Just don't pull too hard with the weaving wire. This will be really great practice for tension. All right, so and then over. 2 times, down and around the bottom 2 times. And we're just going to keep doing this until we go up the leaf. As it starts to descend towards this portion here, it's going to become more difficult. Just remember that wire has memory, so the more you work with it, the more you're going to start feeling it. But you can use that to your advantage by just telling it where it needs to go and then applying the tension. And by doing that, that's going to help you greatly with this weave. I got more to hold on to, so switch back to my fingers. See, this is where it's going to start slipping up a little bit, so you're going to use your fingers to best of your ability to hold wire down. Don't pull too tight, otherwise it's going to pull the wire up as you work. And this is the part where you may just want to slow yourself down, which is what I'm trying to do. Now it starts to get a little easier again once you get to the top. And at this point, I'm going to, this little coil part is actually going to go over the top a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this weaving wire back around, if I can get it over there. And it's going to go down and through or over the top of this, kind of give it a little bit more dimension. See, I'm going to trim this off, leaving a little bit of a tail, actually quite a bit of a tail. I like to have extra tail in case I need to work with it. I'm going to do a little pull and twist on this one. If this one was long enough, I would have brought it over the top, but it wasn't, so do it this way. So I'm going to feed this through here. Like that. And then wrap it around a couple times down here. Make sure to keep my wire straight so I can get it through here. If this goes off camera, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to see what I'm doing here. There's once. At least a couple times just to make sure it holds. There we go. And I'll pull and twist. There's our little leaf. And I'm going to straighten this up here a little bit. And now we can add this to our pendant. So you can feed it in wherever you have a gap. In this case, I think I do have one through here somewhere. Oops. At least I thought I did. There it is. Oops. Just make sure it's turned up somewhere. There we go. Now once it's in there, I'm going to feed it back through carefully. Wrap it around one more time. You can also turn this into a tendril too, if you wanted to. Put that out of the way just a little bit. Oops. There it is. I'm just going to wrap this around and then I'm going to tuck it in here at the side. So there's the little pumpkin pendant. It's all finished. We even got our little leaf embellishment. And you can adjust that however you want to. You can even add more than one leaf if you wanted to. And if you're worried about it maybe getting caught in anything, you can also attach it to the frame of the piece. But there it is. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and leave them in the comments section as I do my best to get to them as quickly as I can. And if you are looking for some more fall inspired tutorials, I have both written and free tutorials. I'll leave a list of them in the description where you can look at those. And until next time, happy weaving.